DreAllDay.com.
You're now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques that all go underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as DreAllDay, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is why you, yes you, why you need a coach. Now, before I get into explaining this, I'm going to tell you all that I have a daily motivation text message that I send out every single day for free to everyone who is in my text community every single morning. You would like to receive that text. All you got to do is text me at my text number, which is 305-384-6894. And every day when I send out the daily motivation text, you, yes, you will be on the list and you will be a recipient of that daily motivation message. So text me. That number is down below in the show notes as well. Now, this topic, why you need a coach, this is something that I have spoken on a bunch of times from different angles, something that I have mentioned. Some of you who are in my text community, you're texting me, you tell me about your challenges, and I ask you, what's your plan for getting to work on them. We're going to talk about that a little bit here today. And I have told several of you who are listening to this right now, I have told you directly, you need to get yourself a coach. It don't even have to be me, it could be whoever, but you need to get yourself a coach, because clearly you being in charge ain't working. And until you come to that conclusion, until you accept that, you're going to continue to have the same problems. We're going to get into all of that here today. So I'm going to explain this directly, clearly, and plainly so that everybody understands it, and so that there is no ambiguity and there is no confusion in the world, in the work on your game world at least, about what you need and why you need it. Let's get into it. Point number one, today's topic, once again, is why you need a coach. Number one, because you personally are the least qualified person on the planet to assess yourself, to discern your own challenges, and to hold yourself accountable. Yes, you heard me. I didn't say you are the most qualified. I said you are the least qualified person on the planet to do these things. Personal assessment, discerning your challenges, and holding yourself accountable. You are the worst person to be in charge of this job. One of my early mentors, a woman named Donna St. Louis, who I mentioned in my book, Work on Your Game, she used to always say, and this is something that I think she used to talk about actually when she would be on stages, and I don't know what the conclusion was for her saying it, but I remember her saying this. I'll give her credit for it. She used to say, you cannot see yourself in the mirror. The point being, there are certain angles about yourself that you are simply blind to such angles because you are you. There are certain things you just can't see in yourself. There are certain things that you cannot see in yourself by yourself, but you can be shown them. Somebody else can point them out to you. You'll notice them then. But if you just leave it to yourself and your own devices, you would never notice. And understand that the best players out there all have coaches. And there's a reason why somebody like the best performers, you think of your favorite performer in any space, business, entertainment, sports, anything that you're interested in, the best performers all have a coach. I mean, if you just think about that, doesn't it make sense then that you would have one? So while I understand it's not always the smartest thing to copy what other people are doing, just because somebody else is doing something, even if they're better than you, does not necessarily mean you should copy that tactic, because it also matters what's the bigger picture strategy to what they're doing. Sometimes it is also true that success leaves clues. So this is where your wisdom comes into play, where you have to discern, what are we looking at here? Are we looking at a information point, a knowledge point of just having certain types of information, or are we looking at a wisdom point where you are knowing how to apply knowledge? And this is a wisdom point, because understanding how to apply knowledge, there are certain strategies that people who are performing at a higher level are executing on a consistent basis that if you're not also executing on, then you're probably costing yourself. You're costing yourself opportunities. As a matter of fact, today, I was just on the phone with somebody who had a certain program that I'm going to be getting into that has a strategy, has a strategic process, is going to help me do some things that I'm doing at a higher level. I'm already in other programs for other things that help me do things strategically. And even though I teach strategies to other people at the same time, somebody has to train the trainer, right? Somebody has to coach the coach. Somebody has to teach the teacher. So everybody who's playing the game at a high level and in anything has people around them. They have processes that they are a part of that are helping them perform at a high level consistently, helping them stay at that level. This is the reason why high level performers are high level performers, because they are consistently being coached. It's not because they're just super talented and just everything just works out just because. So let me ask you a question. Does it make sense for you to dip your toe into doing the same things that the highest performers in your space are also doing? This is a question. Just something for you to think about. The highest performers in your space, there are certain things that they are doing. And everyone's heard the phrase, again, success leaves clues. Doesn't make sense for you to at least investigate those clues and find out what it is that they're doing. And when you have uninvolved third parties, uninvested third parties, people who are impartial third parties, people like myself, those of you who are in my text community, and you've gotten texts from me where I've said this directly to you. Some of you I've said this, many of you I've said this directly to you. You need to get yourself a coach. I've said this to a bunch of you because you told me what your challenge is. You told me how long you've been dealing with the challenge. I've asked you, what are you doing to work on the challenge? You gave me some answer that is frankly not going to help you solve the problem. And I say to you, you need to get yourself a coach, because you're going to keep having the same problem forever unless you do something. And many of you know that I'm talking directly about you because I've said it directly to you. Let's move on to point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is why you need a coach. Number 2, you are emotionally connected to yourself, your situation, your opinions, your feelings, and your outcomes. And because of this emotional connection, no one else on the planet is nearly emotionally invested in you as you are. Now, this is both a good thing for you, because you should be emotionally invested in yourself, because if you ain't, nobody else is. There's also a good thing for the person who will coach you, because the person who is coaching you, they are a person who can give you straight talk. They need to be able to give you straight talk, and that straight talk needs to be real, direct, objective, logical, rational, and based in fact, not based in emotion and feelings. That's what you need from somebody who's going to coach you. So you need someone who's going to approach your challenges in the exact opposite way from how you're approaching them. You may not consider yourself to be a super emotional person, but you are more emotionally connected to yourself than anybody else is, and also to your own opinions, feelings, and of course the outcomes, the results that you get in your life. But you need a person who can tell you the truth about what you're doing. They need to be real with you, meaning telling you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Direct, meaning they don't dance around the point. They make sure you understand it. They're being objective, looking at things as they are, not as you wish them to be. They can be logical, which means they can explain points to you. Rational, which means even though you may be emotional, they don't also become emotional. And they are giving you things based in fact. They can show you factually how and why things are going the way that they're going in your life. And they're not emotionally or feelings wise connected to your outcomes the same way that you are. Now, they may be invested in your success, but they're not emotionally connected to it the same way that you are, because again, they're not you. Because if all you needed in no support that you got from another person was emotion and feelings, well, you could coach yourself. Like all of you, every single one of us who's listening to this, we are emotionally connected to our own selves. So that if that's all you needed, then you could do it yourself. But clearly, again, this is the reason why people have challenges. The reason why people have struggles, not the reason why people have challenges. The reason why people have sustained challenges that don't go away. They have persistent challenges, the same challenges over and over again over an extended period of time, simply because you don't have anyone who is giving you anything objective, direct, and real about what you're doing. So you just keep telling yourself the emotional story that feels good, but doesn't help you do good. And then you end up in the same spot. And then 10 years go by, 20, 50, 100 years go by. You don't get to the results or the outcomes or the life that you want. And you're sitting there like, well, what the hell happened? This is what happens to too many people in life. I've seen it over and over again. And I see the seeds of it in a lot of people these days. People who are maybe just starting out on their journeys, or they're early in their journeys. Let's just put it that way. You might not be starting out, but you're early in your journey, and you're on the way to becoming somebody who's, let's take your age and add 30 years. You're on your way to becoming that person, just 30 years older, with the exact same problems that you got now. They just come in a different form. You maybe have different language for it, but it's the exact same situation, simply because you never went and got any professional help for what you're doing. Understand that a coach is professional help. What is a professional? A professional is a person who is paid to do something as their main occupation. A professional, because they're getting paid, they are consistent in their work. Their work can be relied and depended on, and they're one of the best at what they do. That's the reason why they can charge money for it, and that's the reason why you pay money for it. When you work with professionals, you get high-level results. That's the reason why we have professionals in everything. We got professional teachers who are really good at teaching a certain subject, professional tailors who are good at helping you find the right kind of clothes to wear, professional trainers who help you do what? Get yourself in a great physical shape in the way that you perform and things like that. You got professionals in everything that you do. If you need some new windows installed in your house, what do? You go look for a professional company that has a solid track record, that has some testimonials from other people who they've served that can prove that they can do really good work, and then you hire them. If you got a big lawn or a lot of grass around your house, what do? You hire a professional landscaper. What does a landscaper do? A landscaper keeps the grounds around your home looking good and in good shape, but you hire the professionals. You don't hire some amateur, right? You hire a professional. Why? Because the professional's work can be relied on, depended on, and you know that they're going to help you produce a result. It's the exact same thing when it comes to coaching. Some of you are miring in mediocrity right now, not because you don't know what to do, not because you have no options. Is because you're trying to help yourself with your own situation. The problem is, as I already told you in point number 1, you're the worst person to appoint to this job. If you could just list all the people in the world who could possibly do this job from best to worst, you're at the bottom of the list. You are the worst possible candidate for the job, because this is exactly what you're doing. You're coaching yourself, and the problem is you're too emotionally invested in yourself. You can't coach anyone when you're too emotionally invested in them. You cannot give yourself objective and rational conversation when you're emotionally invested in the person or the situation. You're not supposed to be able to. This is the whole point. All right, this is the reason why coaching is coaching. You're not supposed to be able to coach someone when you're too emotionally invested in them. All right, this is the reason why a lot of parents can't coach their kids. Now, there are a lot of parents out there who do coach their kids, but when you go into coach mode, parent who listens to this right now, when you go into coach mode, you can't be too emotionally invested in your own kid, because you're not going to be that emotionally invested in any of the other kids on the team, and then there's going to be an imbalance in what you're doing, and then everything is all thrown off. You got to go into coach mode where you're not so emotionally invested in the kid, but you can still coach them. You got to be able to kind of go back and forth, vacillate between the two. Now, if I was ever to go into the mode of coaching a child who was a child of mine, I doubt that I ever will do this. I'll support the coach. I'll come to the practices and the games and I'll watch, but I doubt I see myself getting into actually becoming a coach. I'll go find a coach, but I'm not going to be the coach. If I did that, then I would have to do the exact same thing. I had to turn off the emotional connection I had to my kids so I can dispassionately coach everybody the exact same way. But this is why we go get coaches, so we don't even have to run into these problems. This is why I've been adamant about you utilizing other people rather than you just utilizing yourself. All right, this is the reason why you need to get messages sometimes from other people that may not necessarily, sometimes other people may give you a message that is not necessarily some brand new breakthrough idea to you. Maybe it's something that you've heard before in a different form, but hearing it from somebody else, sometimes it gets through to you in a way that you wouldn't have gotten it if you had just told it to yourself. Can we all agree? Have you ever heard a message from somebody that wasn't necessarily a new idea, but because you heard it from them and the way that they said it, it got through to you in a way that it had never gotten through to you before, even though you had heard the idea before, even though the idea was not brand new to you? Of course you have. The smartest people in the world and the most productive people, the highest performing people, you know what they do that a lot of people out there are not doing? They use other people. The smartest people use other people, and they allow themselves to be used by other people. Why? Because there are 8 billion people on the planet, folks. Why would you do everything by yourself when you have 8 billion other choices? Usually there's at least a handful of those 8 billion who can do things in a certain area better than you can. So why not use them instead of doing it all yourself? And it saves you your most valuable resource, which is time of you trying to figure it out, something that you're not even that good at, when there are 10,000 people on the planet who could do it better than you. Why not employ them to help you get to the level that you want to get to? It seems like a good investment deal to me. But if I got it wrong, somebody let me know. Point number 3. Today's topic again is why you need a coach. Number 3, because you will never be able to kick your own ass at the level that your ass needs to be kicked. Why? Because again, you're emotionally connected to yourself. Your results can double in half the time when you're working with someone else who is capable of and has license to push you to levels that you would never otherwise push yourself to. This is the reason why, another reason why coaching matters so much, because a good coach will push you to do things that you could tell yourself to do, but you never would actually do them. Why? Because you can just ignore yourself, but you're not going to ignore another person the same way. Why? This is just human nature. This is why the highest level performers all out there all have coaches, as I've said before. So you don't have an excuse. Coaching is not necessary for someone who is failing or someone who is not good at what they're doing. As a matter of fact, people who are doing the best are often the people who are most often looking for coaching. This is an interesting paradox that you'll find. The highest performers are the people who are looking for ways to perform at an even higher level, whereas the mediocre and low performers are looking for ways to stay at a mediocre and low level. They're not actually looking for it, but they're doing things that are going to keep them at that mediocre and low level. These are the people who are mediocre and low-level performers are usually hesitant to invest in themselves and go find themselves a coach, because they know that it's going to require them doing some things that is not going to allow them to stay at the mediocre and low level, and is dressed up as and looks like what we call work. A lot of people just don't want to do that, and it's dressed up as and looks like qualitative change. Not just doing more of the same things or less of the same things, but doing some different things. And a lot of people who are at the mediocre and low level of performance in life simply don't want to change. Most people talk about change. Most people don't want to actually undergo the change. And this is why high performers get to higher levels, low performers get to lower levels, and that's why the gap between the haves and the have-nots keeps getting bigger. Because each one keeps doing things that got them to where they are, and that's why the people at the low level keep getting lower, and people at the high level keep getting higher. All right, there's no magic trick to this, everybody. Coaches hold you accountable. They call you out on your bullshit, and they push you past whatever you think is your limit. That's what a good coach does. Just on this point alone, that makes whatever coaching you get worth it when it comes to your investment. Point number 4. Today's topic again is why you need a coach. Number 4, when you pay attention. This is the monetary aspect of the concept of coaching. This is the reason why you need to get a coach. You need someone that you actually pay. Sometimes when I'm texting with people, my text community continues to grow, and I still respond to people's texts. I still read all my texts, and I see what you all are sending. So if you ever send a text to me, yes, that is me you are texting. That is not my team or anything like that. That is Dre that responds to your text. And sometimes I ask people, well, do you have a coach? Do you have anybody who's coaching you? Or somebody will tell me, well, I'm working at this job and I'm trying to get better at such and such skill. And I say, well, does your job offer any coaching? Do they offer any kind of continuing education, or have you hired a coach or anything like that? And sometimes people tell me, well, I have mentors in my space or something like that. Somebody will use the word mentor. And I've had over the years, from my background as an athlete, I would get a lot of, sometimes adults will come to me and say, well, Dre, do you offer any mentoring for young men and things like that? And usually, let's make sure that we call this out. Usually when people ask for a mentor, what they're looking for is someone who will coach them but not have to pay them. What I am suggesting here, number 4, when you pay attention, is that you go find yourself a coach, meaning you pay them money and they coach you in exchange for the money. And this is the reason why. It is a paradoxical truth of life that human beings, that's me and you, we get more out of things when we pay for them, simply because we are emotionally connected. There's that word again, emotion. We are emotionally connected to money and what we do with our money. I don't care how much you got. Human beings are emotionally connected to money, that when we put money into something, we tend to pay more attention to things than when we get them for free. In other words, if I was to take this episode of this show and I charged you $1 for it, you would pay more attention than what you're paying now, because I'm giving it to you for free, than the amount of attention you're paying now because I'm giving it to you for free. Now, there are people who will take every ounce of value they can get out of this show, understanding that I don't have to be giving it to you for free, but most of you are not going to get as much value out of this than if I was charging you $1 or $10 or $100 to listen to what I'm saying right now. When you pay attention. This is just the way it works with human beings. Therefore, when we put our money into something, anything, we pay more attention to it. Simple as that. Right? Can everybody agree? So when you hire a coach, you will listen more to that person than you will listen to anything I say. If I just say, hey, I'm going to be your mentor, and you're not going to pay me, but I'm going to work with you the same way I would as a coach, you're not going to pay as much attention than if I made you pay me. And as a matter of fact, I don't offer any mentoring like that. So even if you get any ideas, this is the mentoring. You're getting it right here on this show. That is the closest that it gets. So when you hire a coach, again, you're going to just pay more attention. Why? Because you paid. More than you will pay attention to a podcast or to a YouTube video. When you hire a coach, you are intentionally putting yourself in a position where you must pay attention than you otherwise would. And this forces you, when you pay more attention to something, one of your 5 forms of investment, time, money, attention, energy, and focus, you know what happens? When you pay more attention to things, you get more focus, you give them more energy, you put more time in, and you get more return on your investment simply because you're putting more of your resources into it. So all of these concepts all connect. When you don't make an investment, you can't get a return on investment because you haven't made any investment. That's why the more investments you put into something, the higher the guarantee, the closer you get to a guarantee that you're going to get a return. If your only investment is time, then hey, you can get something back out of time. Time is a very valuable resource. But if you put time into something and money, now you've doubled your chances of getting a return. You put time, money, and energy, now you get more chances. Put time, money, attention, and energy, and focus, then they're guaranteed you're going to get a return. All right, that's the reason why you need to put more investments, as many of your investments as possible in everything that you do, or at least the things that you do that matter the most. Not everything, because you don't have the resource to put all your investments in everything, all your resources in everything, but the things that matter the most: time, money, attention, energy, and focus. Anything you want to be great at, you got to put in all 5. If you're holding back on any one, that's the exact reason why your success is holding back on you. Recapping today's class, why you need a coach. Number 1, because you are the least qualified person on the planet to assess yourself, to discern your own challenges, and hold yourself accountable. You cannot see yourself in the mirror. The highest performers have coaches. Are you a high performer? Yes or no? Number 2, you are emotionally connected to yourself, your situation, your opinions, your feelings, and your outcomes. You need somebody who is completely dispassionate, who can look at your stuff objectively, logically, rationally, and be direct with you about where you're at and tell you what you need to know. There are 8 billion people on the planet. There are probably a handful of them who can help you more than you can help yourself. And number 3, because you will never kick your own ass. All right, this is why you need a coach. Coaches will hold you accountable, call you out on your bullshit, and push you past what you think you are capable of doing. That's the reason why they're there, to take you to where you otherwise would not take yourself. And number 4, when you pay for things, you pay attention. It's a paradoxical truth with human beings that we get more out of things when we pay for them, simply because we are putting more of our resources into it. You have 5 forms of investment in life. The more of them you put into anything, the higher chance you get a return on investment. Anything where you're not getting the outcomes you want in life, look at your 5 forms of investment and ask yourself, where are you coming up short in terms of what you put in? Not about what you get out, but what you put in. All that said, text me to get my daily motivation. My number 305-384-6894, and go to workonyourgameuniversity.com when you are ready to stop playing around, stop bullshitting, and take your game to the next level directly with me. Work on your game. Dre all day.